These are Marxist, violent militia, and we're not going to put up with this. You don't need to keep saying it wasn't peaceful. We see it wasn't peaceful. We see what they were throwing. That's number one. Number two, you don't need to keep saying that you will defend peaceful protest. We got it. In other words, stop stepping backwards. Tell us what you're going to do. We have Antifa, we have Black Lives Matter. We have a lot of groups in this country that are violent. They are brutal. They burn down buildings. They do all these things. And it's interesting, the Southern Poverty Law Center, one of its lawyers, female lady, was part of the rioters, the violent rioters who attacked the police and destroyed construction equipment and some of the facility that's being built there. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is very quick to name very innocent, law-abiding, faithful people, potential, violators of law, criminals, extremists, and domestic terrorists. That group has gone off the rails. It went off the rails a long time ago, and one of the reasons its top guy had to be removed is because of their abuse of the dollars that were coming in. But it's a radical left-wing operation now. What we've seen happen here in Atlanta, we saw first on January 20th that they attacked police, state police, did Antifa. One of these thugs shot at a police officer. The police officer shot back and killed him. And his name was Manuel Tehran. And so Antifa vowed to get even, to get a cop or two. And then we see on March 6th, just the other day, at this Atlanta police training site they're trying to build, this violent attack by these protesters. Take a look at this from News Nation, this clip. Go ahead.
Molotov cocktails, you heard her say it, fireworks, rocks. They're used to attack Atlanta police officers at the construction site of a potential new police training facility.
That new video showing you exactly what happened. Look at the fireworks.
Gee whiz.
Just ducking for cover there. Right now, the people who are being blamed are violent agitators who broke off from a nearby peaceful demonstration. Nick is here with more of this dramatic video.
Adrian, Mitch, good morning. The police training site has been the focus of repeated protests and confrontations, but Sunday's clash has been the most disturbing. A festival was underway nearby to protest its construction when police say more than 100 people broke away and started attacking police in a coordinated way. Fortunately, no law enforcement officers were injured.
This is not a problem. This is criminal activity. When you throw...
This is a militia group that plans these military operations. And a number of the people who were involved were from overseas. And most of the people involved were not from Atlanta. We keep hearing about MAGA and all the violence from MAGA. I don't see violence from MAGA. I don't see anything like this from MAGA. I see all this from the left. The violence, the attack on the cops, I see it all from the left. They like to talk about January 6th, Insurrection Day. We are under a constant insurrection from these groups. I do not understand how the FBI has failed to get informants into these groups. I don't understand how the FBI has failed to monitor properly these groups. There was no great big FBI presence there or warning in advance that we're aware of or anything of the sort because they're busy gathering up people who were parading and trespassing on the Capitol grass on January 6th, because that's the political directive they've been given. Go.
Commercial grade fireworks, when you throw Molotov cocktails, large rocks, a number of items at officers, your only intent is to harm.
Right now, a future police training site is on lockdown following a confrontation between officers and protesters. Police say they have arrested at least 35 people, but the charges they could face have not been announced. Most of those in custody, police say, are not from the Atlanta area.
This was a very violent attack that occurred this evening, very violent attack. This wasn't about a public safety training center. This was about anarchy, and this was about the attempt to destabilize.
New video shows a firework landing just inches away from a police officer while trying to close a gate before exploding. Black smoke quickly filling the air as construction equipment burned.
We are very fortunate tonight.
Those against the training site say they're worried about the militarization of police and the environmental impact the site will have on the land. Opposition has been growing since January when police shot and killed an environmental activist anarchist who police say shot and injured a police officer. Sunday's breach happened just
Who police say shot and injured a police officer? Was he shot? Yes. Was he injured? Yes. Do they have the bullet in the casings? Yes. So what do you mean? Who police say shot a police officer? He shot a police officer. My advice to everybody is don't shoot at cops and you might actually live. Go ahead.
days into a week of planned demonstrations against the site.
When it's a legitimate protest, you have the full protection of the Atlanta Police Department. This is not a this is criminal activity.
Well, the individuals now facing domestic terrorism charges in the wake of yesterday's confrontation coming from all over the country, as well as France and Canada. So joining us now for a closer look, Georgia Attorney General Christopher Carr. AG Carr, thank you so much for your time tonight. We know this, as we said, not the first flare-up between protesters and law enforcement over the facility, but Atlanta's police chief calling this a, quote, significant escalation. How is that being responded to? You said today that there may be an ongoing law enforcement operation.
Yeah, Nicole, thank you for having me on. Well, first of all, I'm just going to echo what the chief said. What happened last night was not peaceful protest. It was violence, plain and simple. And as you mentioned, 23 of the individuals arrested, charged with domestic terrorism, which in the state of Georgia is when you use violence in order to damage infrastructure or property in the attempt to change public policy. That's a state law and one that we will continue to use. But of the 23, only 2 were from the state of Georgia. Others came from Massachusetts and New York and Colorado, and we had 1 from Canada and 1 from France. But the bottom line is this: you cannot come to this state. You can't throw Molotov cocktails at police officers. You can't light construction vehicles on fire. You can't shoot police officers and not be held accountable. This isn't Oregon. This isn't Washington. This is the state of Georgia, and you will be held accountable.
And AG Carr, we were taking a look at those 23 individuals who were arrested last night. This is being called a coordinated attack. Any indication as to why they picked last night to do it?
Well, they declared this past week, March 4th to March 11th, week of action. And you know, Nicole, I will stand and defend anybody's First Amendment right to peaceful protest, even when I disagree with the message. But protesters use words. Rioters use violence. What happened last night was a crime. It, again, engaging in activity, shooting laser pins into police officers' eyes, lighting construction vehicles on fire, unacceptable. That's not peaceful protest. That's not using the First Amendment. Even when you disagree, again, I would defend you. But what happened yesterday was violence, and we're not going to tolerate it in the state of Georgia.
All right, so if they're supposed to be taking action from March 4th through the 11th, right now it's March 6th, are we going to see more incidents, more escalation?
Well, I hope not. Again, if people want to disagree with this training center, and again, I would say, Nicole, saying Cop City is a little bit deceptive, because what this public safety training center will do.
Okay, enough of this guy. Here's what you say. These are Marxist, violent militia, and we're not going to put up with this. You don't need to keep saying it wasn't peaceful. We see it wasn't peaceful. We see what they were throwing. That's number one. Number two, you don't need to keep saying that you will defend peaceful protest. We got it. In other words, stop stepping backwards. Tell us what you're going to do. We're going to track these violators down to the end of the earth, and even if that means France and Canada. That we're going to call in the feds and try and get the Biden administration to finally engage in this. It's not an idea, it's a reality. And we're going to put an end to this kind of Marxist violence in Georgia, and we're going to use this as an opportunity to educate the rest of the country. That's what you say. Now, did you hear what Joe Biden said about this? Nothing. Did you hear what Chuck Schumer said about this? Nothing. Hakeem Jeffries, nothing. Because they tolerate certain kinds of violence. In fact, they smile about it. When the target are the cops or some other people, it's just an amazing thing. But here, of course, they don't do so.
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.